Wow. No more nose. Now
No,
you don't have a face on your belly anymore.
I don't. I still have a beer gut.
This is the Greg Cote Show with Greg Cote.
Pardon it.
Here's your host, Greg Cote.
Well, this is super exciting. We're about to be joined by Field Yates, who is the new mock draft wonderkind at ESPN, the worldwide leader.
You sound hydrated.
You know what? I'm drinking more water. You guilted me into it. I probably had more bottled water in the past few days than I've had in the previous several months.
And
so,
it's damn good, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
Are you feeling any effects? Are you more energized?
I wouldn't say I'm more energized, but my voice feels better. I'm going to the bathroom more.
Okay.
Because this stuff goes through you like Richmond took Virginia.
All right. Well, Field's joining us right here, so this is very exciting. We can just bring him right in.
How about that? This guy's punctual. I got to give him props.
Yeah.
3:15, man. He's in on at 3:14. This is fantastic.
Yep.
Hey.
That's right. He's a football guy. He's on time. If you're on time, you're 5 minutes late. Right? You're an on-time guy, football guy.
Football guy, baby.
What's up, Field? We're recording. We're rolling, baby.
Hey, Greg, how you feeling, Greg? You all right?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Thank you. I'm drinking more water. I'm hydrating. I used to be low-drated. Now I'm hydrated. It's all good.
See, Field's got his water with him, Dad. It's what adults do. No, my dad. I think Field. Did you see on Twitter? My dad just had a procedure done. Is that why you're asking how he's doing?
That's why I'm asking. Yeah. Of course. I mean,
I think, Dad, you should
actually ask how he's doing.
You should tell the audience, Dad. You actually haven't how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. My lower abdomen near the belly button region is pretty sore, tender to the touch. I think I'm going to come out of this with a little bit of a scar, but it's better than it was because I had that umbilical hernia, which was a big giant, almost egg-sized bump down there, and it was so unsightly. I looked like a pregnant man carrying the world's smallest baby.
Okay,
that's what I looked like for years, and now I have more of a flat lower abdomen, relatively speaking. So we're doing
I assume great. We're not prepared to show the audience it yet, right? Where do you how are we feeling?
It would be unsightly. I mean, I'll show it to you if you want.
No, are you? I don't really want it. Actually, are you? I assume you're bandaged up. No.
No, there's no bandage there.
Okay, we're letting it breathe. All right, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Let me think about that.
Okay,
I don't want to do that to Field. That's like an aggressive thing to throw at him.
Yeah, I don't want to subject Field Yates to that.
But I don't know. I mean, why not?
Oh, see, Field likes the party.
Listen, I'm a ball player. I'm a ball player, people.
Yeah, you've seen some things. Before we get to my dad's scar and football, you seem like a guy that's given a best man speech before.
I have. Yes, I have. Yes.
Several. I'm going to say several.
Wow.
My brothers, am I forgetting somebody right now? Well, I've given my brother's best man speech, but I've actually had the honor of officiating 3 weddings. That was very cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
I could see that. Like close friends and stuff.
Yep. So one of my best friends, and his wife is one of my wife's best friends. So he officiated our wedding, and then he got married maybe a year or so later, and I returned the favor then. My aunt got remarried and had me do it. And then second cousin of mine also asked me to do it. It was one of those things that once you've done it once,
yes,
people sort of they're like, well, if I'm not going to get married in the church, what's a somewhat unique way to make the wedding something different? And typically an officiant does the job. So it's very cool. I enjoy it.
So I am giving in about a month, less than a month. Wow, much less than a month, actually. My brother's wedding. So I'm giving the best man speech. I have, I have like the bullet points of I basically need my opening funny thing. Like, I don't know if you started funny. I kind of want to start funny. Any advice? Like, what can you give me here?
Well, I mean, the line that everybody uses, it pops up on Instagram like every 3 weeks. Do you know where I'm going to go with this one?
No.
Where it's like, they say the best man speech should last no longer than the groom can last in bed.
Oh,
so everybody enjoy the dinner.
Yeah. I've never heard that one, actually.
Oh, really?
I mean, I probably won't. If you're saying it's a viral thing, I can't go with that. But I do
Well, I mean, apparently it's not viral enough that everybody had heard it. Yeah.
That's funny. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I tell you, I don't know that I have like great advice for it. One thing that was so this was like disarming for me was the day of my wedding, my wife comes up to me like it was early in the morning because we were separated for a good chunk of the day while she was getting ready, and me and my grooms were getting married as well, are getting ready as well, and she's like, hey, so your brother actually came up to me this morning and asked me for something about his best man speech. I'm like a little nervous that he hasn't started this and that tonight he's just going to go up there and like kind of fall flat on his face.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm like, I mean, listen, first of all, like we got enough things that are going on right now. Like my brother will be fine, I hope. And if he's not, then I'll, never speak to him again. And then he goes up there. And he goes up and he gives a best man speech that he had completely recited, or excuse me, memorized. And it was like, 5 minutes, completely memorized, but not like memorized in the way that it was like, when Field was growing up, I always envisioned him. It was like he had memorized all the key points. I felt like he was masterfully performing like an actor out there. So
stepped it up. Stepped up.
Yeah, he definitely showed out as the brother / best man.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Now, I got to ask you something because I saw a People magazine headline recently online. I didn't even know People magazine was still a thing. But the headline was, and I swear this is the truth, bride picks ugly friends as bridesmaids to make herself look better. Now, no, I swear. In this case, is there any truth to the fact that when you're giving a best man speech, you don't want it to be too great to sort of upstage the best man? Does that make sense? Like
you mean
don't want to like
the groom? You mean the groom?
All of a sudden you're doing a comedy act and
to upstage the groom is what you're saying.
The groom, yeah.
Well, I always felt like the two things, or the two people that had to really like be either on equal footing, or they had to announce, or they had to figure out before they actually said their speeches, the appropriate order was if the best man and the maid of honor are both going for like the funny, like yucks speech, totally fine to just kind of do them back to back. And it doesn't matter who goes first. But if like the maid of honor is going to lean into the very sentimental and like a couple of jokes, but they're mostly inside jokes that like only she and the bride laugh at, you got to send her first, and vice versa. If that's what the best man is doing. But my experience generally has been that if one of the two is going for like big, like, knee slapper comedy, it's been the best man as opposed to the maid of honor there. So I do think it's important that you speak with the maid of honor prior to this speech and just get the general tenor, right? Because if she's going for sentimental and emotional, let her take it away. Because if you go out there and light the room on fire with laughs, and then she follows up by talking about how great your soon-to-be sister-in-law is, and everybody just like allows them to have their moment. Yeah, it's just not
I'm with you.
Quite as impactful.
You almost like a show. You want your closer. You don't want the closer to go first.
You want your setup man to go first, right? Yeah. Who's throwing the 8th inning? Who's throwing the 9th? This is everything comes back to sports metaphors.
Exactly.
All right, poor Yates. He's like, when the hell are we going to get to NFL draft stuff? Because
hold on. This is so much more exciting.
I was
for me
about
to talk
to say
about
he loves it
right now. Someone just asked me how an appearance was on a specific show that I won, and I said I got to be honest with you, it was great because it was the first time that I've talked about the NFL draft where someone didn't ask me about the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, and I get why we're talking about the quarterbacks, but like someone asked me about, they were like, think about the offensive linemen and the cornerbacks. I was like, whoa. Did you have to like get permission to ask me those questions? Because, we're 5 minutes in and the names Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders haven't actually been said yet.
Yeah. No, we love that.
I'm going to shut my dad up then because I know that's where he wants to go. So before we get
to
that, I want to ask you about the Dolphins. Really, I'm going to go Homer here first, but really, I think the Dolphins need the trenches as much as anyone. So honestly, the question really is, who are the Dolphins are 13, the trench guys on either side of the line or the value guys in the later rounds that you think are really good value here.
Yeah, I'll go Kelvin Banks at 13 as a name to know from Texas. He won the Outland Trophy this year, which is given to the best best lineman, in college football. On defense, it would be there's a lot of pass rushers, but if you're looking for a defensive tackle, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon from Ole Miss, and also Oregon. Along the offensive line, if Will Campbell gets there, but I doubt he will, from LSU, would be a name to know. I think the Dolphins are in a fascinating place, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to come on and probably make you more disappointed in the team than you probably are right now.
It's weird.
But
it's a weird spot.
It is a weird spot to be in. Like this Jalen Ramsey eventual trade, they're undoing things that they did to themselves within the past couple of years. And it feels like the ceiling is too low to be viewed as like a legitimate contender, right? I don't think the Dolphins are going to go and win meaningful playoff games next year, absent crazy things happening. But the floor is too high where they're picking at 13 and they feel like they're kind of tethered to a lot of their roster. You don't want to chase the middle ones for it. It sucks when you're at the bottom, but at least it gives you a chance, right? Like a year from now, or the Commanders are a great example, right? They got a quarterback, they got a chance. Maybe the Patriots and Bears, after picking a quarterback in the top 3 last year, make that same leap, or at least a decent leap this year. But being in the middle with a lot of your pieces kind of tied up for a lot of money for the next couple of years can be a scary spot for a franchise to be in. So if I'm the Dolphins, in some ways I kind of want to bottom out because it gives me a better chance of eventually reaching the top. But as a coach and a GM, that might mean that somebody else is eventually building you back up to the top because you're out of a job. So I understand why they're going to continue to sort of push their chips in the middle of the table here.
It seems like fairly recently the evolution has been, the Dolphins need to draft an offensive guard. And now with the Jalen Ramsey stuff, it seems to be, the Dolphins need to draft a cornerback.
They also need a safety. They also need a line. Like the Dolphins honestly only don't need, I think, maybe a running back.
Yeah.
Like
probably running back.
Even a quarterback.
Receiver.
Shit, I don't care.
Yeah.
You're right. They need a lot. But
you're right. Receiver, they probably don't need if they're keeping Hill.
Yeah, we'll see. But that feels like it could be day to day, right?
Yeah. But in my mind, I agree with you in your mock draft that you went back and forth with Mel Kiper Jr. And I want to ask you about Mel Kiper Jr. in a minute. But you picked Will Johnson, the Michigan cornerback for the Dolphins. Seems reasonable to me. Why do you think they're going to go cornerback now instead of guard?
Yeah, I actually thought before the Jalen Ramsey news that this could be a position of need here. Cam Smith, and Chris Greer talked about this big year coming up for a second round pick. A year or two ago is Cam Smith. A lot expected of him right away. Remember, like just a few years ago, it felt like the Dolphins had this cornerback room that was a mixture of like established veterans plus guys who are on the rise and coming out of nowhere. Now this group is really thin. So you need that just this depth. You need maybe starters. You might need 2 starters going into next year at corner. So Will Johnson is a guy who had an interesting final season, just 6 games played. I think this guy is awesome. I don't necessarily agree with how I think the NFL views him. I thought that in those 6 games, he looked a lot like the player we saw the 2 years prior, which was one of the best players in all of college football. He is a ball hawk. He had 6 interceptions at Michigan, returned 3 of them for a touchdown. But the big question is, how fast is he? And I don't see the speed deficiency when I'm watching the guy. I really don't. But NFL evaluators continue to say, hey, you got to, can you draft a guy who might be 4.49 or 4.51 with a top 10 pick? And it seems like the answer is no. But one of the silver linings from Miami would be, at least based off last year, if you look at the percentage of snaps they played zone defense as opposed to zone coverage versus man coverage, it's so significant that, zone coverage allows you to play with slower players, right? That's one of the advantages to playing zone is you don't need to have these speedy guys who are going to be tasked with just chasing down the equivalent of Tyreek Hill on teams beyond the Dolphins. So I kind of think Will Johnson is sort of a hand in glove fit there, but safety wouldn't surprise me. Linebacker, I'd have a hard time seeing only because the way the class shapes up this year, not a guy that I think is worthy of that 13th overall pick, right. But defense, or guard/tackle makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, my only hesitation with Will Johnson is that this has been a team built on speed. Like from Tyreek Hill on down, they seem to just be obsessed with speed. So I am wondering if they'd go for a cornerback who specifically was not known for the 40.
Well, offense, two sides of the ball, but offense.
But it's also fair. It's if you're infatuated with speed on offense, you're at least going to be, intrigued by it on defense.
Right.
He's a hard one to peg. Like, I think it's somewhere as high as like 13 for Will, maybe as low as like 17, 18 for Will Johnson. But I will say, like, not to sound too like, get off my lawn guy, but there is like a trust the tape factor with a guy like that where he was so good for 3 years that, like, is he really going to fall off that much when he gets to the NFL? Because he might be 4.52 as opposed to 4.48. How much of a difference does that really make when you are watching or when you're on the football field? And I mean, how often does that 0.04 seconds rear itself in the course of a play?
You mentioned tape a second ago. I'm wondering, you a few weeks ago weren't able to join us because you were at Colorado Pro Day. And I'm just wondering, you've worked for NFL organizations, you understand the scouting process, and like you've been to these things. On the pie chart of drafting a player, what percentage is game film that they're just like, you're watching this guy every game he's played and that's how you're assessing him? You're going to his pro day and watching him run in his underwear, the combine, the interview. Like, are those all 25% each? Like, what's the pie chart of those things?
Yeah, I would say the foundation is always going to be the tape. It's going to be the highest percentage of that pie. It does vary a little bit from prospect to prospect. Quarterbacks, you probably put a little bit more weight on some of the intangibles, which can be, I think, viewed or learn. You can learn more about those at pro days and private workouts because you're just getting your hands on the guys a little closer, right? And sometimes quarterbacks, it's like, when these quarterbacks go on these we call them 30 visits because you get 30 of them per team. A lot of times what teams will do is they'll send the quarterback like a bundle of plays and kind of prep them and say, hey, when you're here, we're going to go over these things. So memorize these and we're going to run them back. And you can just imagine how a coach feels. Like if he sends a guy, 10, 12 plays to memorize with some checks and some line adjustments, things like that, and he comes in and he just nails them, then of course you're going to love it, right?
Okay.
But if the guy comes in and stumbles his way through it, you're like, geez, what are we doing here? This is the quarterback. This is the guy who's got to be able to do this in live time. But there are other players where, and I've seen this a lot with a couple of guys near the top of the board. Mason Graham from Michigan, Will Campbell from LSU would be a good example, where you're just like, I just feel like Will Johnson from Michigan as well. Like you can nitpick small things, but damn, there's a lot of good on tape. And, the guys are clean character, maybe even probably better than that, like just really good character as well. Medical history for the most part is clean. Like in this very unpredictable process, if the tape is good, the person's good, the health is good, shouldn't you just say, like, at some point you just pull the trigger on those guys and feel pretty good about them?
Yeah.
I'd rather roll the dice when the boxes are checked pretty much across the board than compromise a little bit and enter into a bit more of an unknown.
Yeah. Like, are those like pro days are as much as like networking for like scouts and people from the league, right?
Totally.
As much as
100%.
like actually getting anything out of watching them run routes with no one covering them.
Well, I mean, and it's like, during the pro day itself, I can say this because I was there. Like, It's not like when Shador is throwing, you've got all these GMs with their binoculars out. They're like meticulously
watching his arm. Look at his angle.
Right?
Look at the angle on his arm. Like.
No, these gentlemen are much more equipped. These people in scouting are much more equipped to handle like on-site and snap reaction evaluation than I am. But there's also a lot of them who are sitting there just like talking with the buddies, right? Like, So are they? Of course, they're watching it closely, but they're not watching it as closely as you do when you watch film by yourself in a dark room in the the facilities somewhere. So it's a part of the process. I've always wondered this, and it'll never happen for very obvious reasons, but I've always wondered what it would look like if the draft was held like a week or two after the college football playoff. Because, I remember like a couple of years ago, and I'm not trying to say like we told you so, because I understood why he ended up going high, but I remember at the end of the 2022 college football season, which led into the 2023 NFL draft, obviously. Florida fans were like, there's no way Anthony Richardson will go anywhere near the first round. Like, you are insane if you think he's going in the first round. Not every Florida fan, but enough that I know that were like, no way. And then 4 months later, he goes from a guy that it was like, no chance, to the fourth overall pick of the draft, right? Because goes to the combine and has, I would say, measurements and physical skills that have almost never been replicated by a quarterback. I guess the closest would be Cam Newton. But like, Cam Newton was like a way, way better college player than Anthony Richardson, of course. So while it is never going to be a January event, I do think that if it were, it would probably lead to a lot more understandable selections early. And I think probably like better hit rates from teams. They would just trust the tape a little bit more.
Yeah. Wow. But I wonder if Gator fans turned out to be right about Anthony Richardson in retrospect, because a few years later, the Colts think so little of Anthony Richardson that they're signing Daniel Jones. They're still not convinced that he's all that, right?
Yeah, I think Gator fans are probably, right now they're at least ahead in the race, right? I mean, they're like, we told, and he was at like 58 or 57% completion percentage, which, you got to be careful. You can't totally dismiss all outliers, but the quarterback spot, that's just like, you go back and look at the efficiency of quarterbacks that have succeeded in the NFL during their college days. That's extremely low, extremely low.
Yes.
So you got to be very judicious when you are advocating for outliers. And I say that because I am somebody who is a fan of Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU, who, depending on whether you're taking the pro day measurements or the combine measurements, has either 33-inch arms or 32 and 5/8 inch arms. But the bottom line is both measurements are below the generally accepted standard for an offensive tackle.
Can Dad, I want to remind you, the audience, and I'm sure Field knows because it was a big viral thing. The Greg Cote Show recently did their top 100 guests of all time.
Yeah.
We've had hundreds of guests over how many years we've been, Dad? 5 years?
5.
And just want to let you know and remind the audience, we are talking to number 51 all time on the Greg Cote Show top 100. And I know you might be offended by that, but there are some heavy hitters on this list.
Yeah.
You're just ahead of Philip Bailey of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Adnan Verk is below you. Dan Marino is actually below you. You would think Dan Marino would be higher, but he didn't really join us. My dad played a clip of him talking once, and he's trying to claim that he joined us. Dan Marino has never been on this podcast.
Okay. Isn't Dan like sort of legendarily not a big media guy anymore? I think he just prefers to keep a lower profile.
Yeah, he particularly doesn't like media guys who once wrote that the Dolphins should trade Dan Marino. So, there's a little something there too. Field, I want to ask you a little bit about what Mel Kiper Jr. is really like, because all of a sudden you're the young up and coming ESPN star who's going after what Mel Kiper has. I'm putting words in your mouth here, but you're a rival. And when I look at Mel Kiper Jr., they're rivals in the mock draft game. Okay. And when I look at Mel Kiper Jr., I see the older curmudgeon who's like, sort of like referring to you as
like
kid.
you.
Hey,
He's
hey,
you.
Kid, don't stay out of my lane. No,
I would say, you know what? Like, as much as I'd love to play along with this, I have to be serious here for a moment. I'd have a hard time finding like 3 kinder individuals at ESPN and probably in sports media than Mel Kiper Jr.
Yeah.
I remember a few years ago when ESPN kind of informed me that like my future was going to include more and more draft work. First call I got was from Mel, and he right away was like, anything that I can do for you, let me know.
Wow.
Which is a nice courtesy to offer. But then on top of it, walk me through his whole process. Here's how I go about things. Here's where I start. Here's how I kind of move throughout the year, what things are important to me in September versus, middle of the season versus end of the season. And, consistently reminding me about things throughout the process. And it's gotten to the point now where, like we're talking a ton about not just the draft, but life. And Mel, you guys may know this, famously does not use cell phones except for the 3 days of the year when he's doing the draft. So he has a cell phone that stays in a drawer and then gets charged like a day before he leaves. So in order to get a hold of Mel, you got to call him. I mean, you can email him, but you can always call the house. And do you guys know, or you guys remember like the voicemail machines where when someone was leaving the voicemail, you could hear it. It would like play back as that person was leaving. Hey, this is Field, just checking in. Like, hope you're doing well. You would hear it in your living room or wherever the phone was. So now what I do is when I call Mel, if he doesn't pick up, I just start leaving a long voicemaal. Like, hey, Mel, just had breakfast, had a great bagel, with cream cheese. The kids are up. And after that, we, color and just keep going until he picks up because he's eventually going to pick up. And he always does. And it's always, if it's an intended 5-minute conversation, it ends up being like a 45-minute conversation because he'll go on and on about life And he truly is like one of a kind human. And talking about all-time best, like bet on yourself decisions, I don't know that we give enough credit to Mel for betting big on the NFL draft 47 years ago. When at that time, and Mel will remind you of this, the NFL didn't even want the draft publicized. I mean, they just wanted it. They wanted to do it over a phone and have it printed in the newspaper the next day. Now it's a 3-day event on multiple networks, and you've got we go around the country. Seemingly only to the cold cities, which I'm not. I love like Miami draft next year, please.
Let's
somehow.
go.
But yeah, it's become a spectacle. It has become the offseason Super Bowl, and I will continue to believe that Mel is at least partially and responsible for that, and I would say as responsible for it as anybody else throughout the past 47 years.
Yeah,
you seen the big board? You seen the big board?
His big board?
He's got a big board, right? Like, isn't it like in his basement? Like, you've seen it? You've seen the big board?
I haven't been to the compound yet, but we're trying to make it happen this summer. The one thing about Mel is like he's very particular with his schedule. So like if you call him at, Tuesday at 9:30 and say like any chance you're free at noon, don't even bother asking, right? So we're trying to map it out. I got to give him enough leeway. Summertime, things are a little quieter. Mel also loves Orange Crushes, which an alcoholic beverage. So you get a couple Orange Crushes, you get on the Kiper. I think there's a boat. I'm pretty sure there's a boat involved. So you get on the boat and you go enjoy the beautiful shores of Maryland.
Man, seeing that big board's on my bucket list.
I'm telling you that I want to do. Remember they used to have MTV Cribs. How could we forget?
I have pitched this to Meadowlark, a sports MTV, like a crib, just bringing cribs back, but doing it for like sports people. You could do athletes, you could do media. Like I would love to see Mel Kiper's crib.
Oh man, I bet I've only seen the various Zoom angles of it.
That living room is really nice. That because me and Stu Gatz, nice. You say how nice Mel is genuinely, and I have to say, I recorded once a podcast interview like this with Stu Gatz and Mel Kiper, and off air, Mel Kiper was so like cool and nice and friendly. Like not that I wasn't expecting. I don't know. You just look at him and he doesn't necessarily give off like I'm going to be the friendliest guy.
Right.
But I'm telling you though, he is like he was so surprisingly kind and nice and like happy and like happy to like meet me. And he wasn't, but he was being nice. And
Greg's right though. He does have a little bit of that snarl sometimes on TV.
Yes.
Like he'll just give you. Someone will say like, "Hey, Mel, if the Cowboys were to do this at pick number 12, is it a good idea?" And he'll just go, "No."
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Like that's like when I ask my daughter to like get ready for school, right? No. It's like and so sometimes he's like a chameleon. Like he's very adaptable, and that's one of his great strengths as well. So I know the internet likes to have their fun with really everybody in sports media, but I think if you asked fellow ESPNers what they think about Mel, my sentiment would be largely shared.
Wow, Dad, no time for Cam Ward talk. Gotta go.
Well,
see you later.
Okay, listen. I think I've set a record. Field, you tell me if I have. I have set a record for interviewing you the longest about a draft without mentioning the number one rated quarterback.
I mean, Dad, he just what do you mean? He told us at the beginning that he did an interview where they didn't ask him it at all. So you haven't.
Well, that was like 10 minutes. So I don't need that. That was a spot. This is an interview. That was a spot.
Okay.
Now we can talk.
Okay, I'm allowed because we're talking about a Miami quarterback.
Yeah, just
and the Hurricanes have only had two other overall number one picks, so this is a big deal in South Florida. But I have to be a little bit of a contrarian here because here's what I believe, and you tell me if I'm right. Bad draft for quarterbacks.
Yep.
If this were a year ago, Cam Ward might be the 4th or 5th ranked quarterback. He's damn lucky that he's the number one quarterback this year and that the top 3 teams all need quarterbacks. Is Cam Ward that good? Is he good enough to be a number one overall pick, do you think?
I think he picked the right year to do it, to your point. He's the 6th rated player on my board right now. So, 5 non-quarterbacks ahead of him is pretty unusual. Last year, the first 3 players on my board were all quarterbacks in the order they were taking: Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and then Drake May. If you think back to, let's include this year, and let's put Cam into this conversation. Since 2020, the first overall pick in the draft has been a quarterback again, including Cam 5 times. Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence coming out of Clemson, Bryce Young out of Alabama, and then last year, Caleb Williams. I think it's fair to say that if you were to, and I don't grade my players, I don't grade these guys on like a 1 to 100 scale. I just grade them independent, or I grade them within the course of the class. But if you were to give an overall rating, which I believe Mel does, the lowest grade out of those 5 coming out of college, would be Cam Ward. I still think he's a justifiable number 1 overall pick this year. Tennessee is obviously desperate for a quarterback. They've really built their offseason around eventually taking Cam. They bypass major moves at the quarterback spots and have done a little bit of work along the offensive line. Cam's got some really special traits, though. And I think that the reason why it's justifiable is that Cam needs to really settle in and get used to playing like on time, in rhythm. You guys know this in following the team. Like Miami was not, they didn't look like a Sean McVay offense down there where it's a well-oiled rhythmic team. It was like snap the ball. It almost felt like, hey, 3 guys on the right, 2 guys on the left, run around. And when something eventually uncovers Cam, you just zip it there to whoever it is, Sam or Xavier or Elijah, you name it, right? Playing on time and in rhythm because he doesn't have the liberty to move his round as much in the NFL as he did at the collegiate level is an adjustment. But I think he is I don't think what the Titans are doing is a significant reach. I think it is a justifiable number 1 overall.
Okay, now with the other clear first-round quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, you hear that he isn't that athletic. He would go, if he were all that, he would be going second or third because the Browns and the Giants both need a quarterback. But he isn't. So, he may drop till 9 or even lower. What's the knock against Shedeur Sanders, and do you think he will end up being a great or pretty good NFL quarterback?
I think pretty good, to answer that question first. I think number 3, by the way, is in play. I don't know if it's a lock, but I think it's in play for the Giants. Very interesting dynamic going on with the Giants right now. What I would say about Shedeur is as I think about the hierarchy of quarterbacks in the NFL, one of the common threads is extremely athletic quarterbacks. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Those are the 2 MVP finalists, plus Jalen Hurts as the NFL Super Bowl MVP. Patrick Mahomes, best player on the planet. And probably Joe Burrow is the 5th quarterback with Jaden Daniels right there kind of hovering around, or maybe already in the conversation. All those guys, very athletic. Burrow's a good athlete, but where Burrow is so unique, in my opinion, is he's just this incredible pocket navigator. He just moves around just enough to avoid pressure. With Shedeur, he's not a bad athlete. He's just not this elite athlete. And in the pocket, he's just too prone to holding on to the football for a beat too long. Now, he had a bad offensive line, so I think some of that will be coached out of him when he plays behind, hopefully, a better offensive line. But Shedeur is going to win where he can play on time, in rhythm, and be a pocket passer too. I've been using this comparison, and some people just get riled up about it, and I mean it as a compliment, not sort of like damning with faint praise. When Kirk Cousins was going with the Vikings, and he was lighting up defenses, 4,000 plus yards and 35 plus touchdowns a season, that was pretty damn good football play. It was playing in structure, on time, in rhythm. Kirk was not nearly the athlete Shedeur is, but that will be kind of like an example of how a quarterback who does have some limitations can still thrive at the NFL level and maybe not necessarily be the quarterback that you win because of, but the quarterback you win with. It's kind of an interesting but important distinction as it pertains to quarterback and ability and upside.
Field Yates, thank you. Thank you as always.
Thank you for joining us. We are getting you out of here. The last question is, name in the top 15 that you don't see it. You don't see it.
There's one answer that's probably just it might be too easy, but it's Shamar Stewart, the edge from Texas A&M. He is the proverbial traits over production guy. He had 4.5 sacks in his college career. But if you see him up close, the guy looks kind of like Javon Curse, the freak way back in the another Florida throwback there. Okay. I like the player, but he's the one that makes me the most nervous. He's still inside the top 15, and he might go in the top 10. But I just would say this: it's going to take some serious cojones to make Shamar Stewart a very, very highly drafted player.
And on that, I have a final quick question on the heel of Christopher's final question, which is, what were the odds, do you think, that there was once a baby boy born with the last name Dart, who would grow up living to aim things at targets.
Yeah, I feel like are we sure that's his real last name? Do we have any evidence? Like, is there a birth certificate somewhere?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good
Could this
question.
be like,
I recently learned and looked it up. Did you know Usain Bolt's real last name is Bolt? Like
no?
I look it up.
Yeah.
I swear.
Really?
I
I
mean,
thought it
maybe.
was just a. Yeah.
Oh, maybe
Yeah,
I'm
learned
an
something
idiot.
new.
Even weirder, his middle name is Lightning. Not a lot of people know that, which is crazy to me.
Man.
Field, thank you. We really
Thank you.
appreciate
Hey,
you. Thanks.
audience. I want to be number 41 by next year. 41. I don't want to be top 51. I want to be
What
top
do you
41.
want to you want to promote anything on the way out? Where can the people
Yeah,
find you?
I want to promote myself because I want to get to number 41 by next year.
Please.
Hey, the big thing we're doing right now is First Draft, which new episodes drop Mondays and Thursdays. And we only have a couple left because the draft is a week away from the time you and I we were having this conversation.
Yep. All right.
Excellent.
You guys are the best.
This was a lot of ball. Let's take a break. All right, that was fun with Field.
It was. We thank him.
All right, I kind of want to see the scar.
Do you really?
I mean, if this is really gross, maybe we'll blur it for the YouTube audience. Okay. Like maybe this could just be an audio thing where people are hearing my reaction to it.
There's still a little redness involved, and for those of you who are watching on our new YouTube channel, this is almost like the equivalent of a spoiler alert. Like if you don't want to see anything that could repulse you, now's the time to look away for 10 seconds. Are we ready?
Only 10 seconds. All right, do it quick. Go.
Okay.
Lean forward a little. Like that this doesn't look that bad. Don't hurt yourself. Okay. Now, like, I kind of want to see the side view to see if, because it kind of still looks like it's protruding. Oh, wow. Wow. No more nose.
No.
Now you don't have a face on your belly anymore.
I don't. I still have a beer gut that I need to get rid of, but I no longer have a nose coming out of my lower belly. So we're good on that.
I don't think we need to blur that. That was just a little like clean looking.
Yeah.
I feel like
shaved me.
People looked away.
It's still a little red. The redness will go away. I'm putting an ice pack on it off and on for a half hour just about throughout the day. So,
which means you're doing it probably like twice a day?
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly right. Whenever I think of it, I do it.
You're the worst.
But I know.
I'm glad you're doing all right. It was definitely a little nerve-wracking that morning, just like knowing you were going under. I mean, you're old.
I know. That was my apprehension. Look, it's minor surgery. It's outpatient surgery, but I'm still a 70-year-old guy going under the knife. You know what I mean? I mean, anything can go wrong. You know, the doctor can have a bad day. I mean,
sneeze, but like accidentally sneeze, even though I'm pretty sure he's wearing a face guard. But
we hope so. But I can't tell you how great the staff was there. The doctor, the two anesthesiologists, the two nurses, they all came and introduced themselves, tried to put me at ease, asked me if I had any questions. I'm a big fan of bedside manner. If I have a doctor who doesn't have it, he's out of there, and I get a new doctor. And these people were all terrific. At a place called Outpatient Surgical Services in Plantation, Florida. So if any of you are ever in South Florida and you need surgery, I can recommend this place. Hey, that kind of thing.
I mean, your voice is, maybe take a sip of water.
I know. I'm out of water. See, I'm drinking so much water. It's an empty bottle.
I will say your voice sounds so much better today than it did on the Joe Rose podcast.
I know. You're right. By the way, thank you, Joe Rose and Kim Bokamper, for having me on You're Out to Pasture podcast. Give it a listen if you haven't already. How about that?
Jack?
And now I feel my voice getting bad again, even as we speak. Can I go get a bottle of water? Can we just put a pause button real quick?
Nope. We're going to sit here the entire time. Yes, Dad. Go ahead.
Oh, Greg Cote, sipping some water. Time for a water break.
Okay. That feels much better. So your mom and I go to see Chicago, not the city, the musical group locally, and they put on a concert I'd never seen them in concert before.
Rather see the city.
Yeah, I know. Boy, I love Chicago the city. Didn't love Chicago the group that much. And part of it is they're one of these groups, you got to know who you are at this point, right?
Play the
You
hits.
haven't had a hit record in 30 years.
They're playing new stuff?
They're playing new stuff. And the worst part is they're starting off the concert with new stuff. So they're starting off where everybody's looking around going, I'm not ready for a bathroom break yet. The concert just started. You know, they have they have a big catalog. They have 6, Make Me Smile, Saturday in the Park, Feeling Stronger Every Day. They have songs that I love. We sat through a half hour of them just indulging themselves with jazzy horn kind of songs that nobody knew. Man, I wish I was the manager for Chicago.
I feel like
I would tell them this is not the way to do it.
I feel like you get maybe 3. I feel like 2's the perfect number. I will give an old band, even like a Paul McCartney type, because I could see him being the type that like wants to play newer stuff that he's done. And it's like, dude, we're not here for this.
Right.
But it's like, I get it. You're an artist. It's your show. No more than 3. If you're playing like a 15 or 16 song set, like I need the top 10 songs you've ever sang, and then you get to have a couple.
Yes.
Like, it's wild that some artists just don't care. Wasn't it Bob Dylan that we saw?
Oh my God. Bob Dylan is the extreme example about this, because Bob Dylan is just thumbing a nose at the customary, we're going to play the hits. I'm going to give you a concert that you really want to hear. And he's the opposite. He plays exactly what he wants to play, plays obscure album cuts that nobody's ever heard of, doesn't play any of his. I went to. Your Bob Dylan sounds like Liverpool. It sounds like you're imitating Ringo Starr. Okay. Like a Rolling Stone. But anyway, I want to talk real briefly about World Happiness Report, which the University of Oxford puts out every year. They just issued their latest list. They have a way of doing this. It's like income, happiness, this, all these different ways of measuring it. Finland wins every single year. Finland won for the 8th straight year. But what I was interested in is watching how far the United States had fallen to their lowest point ever in this ranking, and they're now number 24, the 24th happiest country in the world. Do you have any theories on that? And I have a theory, but I don't want it to be too political, because I'm last year they were like whatever. It doesn't matter who's in office. I think it's bigger than that. What do you think about that?
Now, I don't want this to sound bad. I don't I'm happy. Like, I know, like, I'm privileged. I'm very lucky. Like, I don't want this to come off like I know some people aren't. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect and I don't have any, issues in my life. I'm just saying overall, I think of myself as happy. So I'm not really subscribing to the world is crumbling right now. I just don't buy that. I know the stock market is bad the last month or so. Yeah. But people have been saying the world's crumbling for years and the stock market was good 6 months ago. So it's
you're right.
I'm not going to let that like affect my worldview on I don't wake up scared in I'm not leaving my house. Dan likes to do this on the show where he's like, John Amici, braved through customs to get here. And it's like, he's got the global entry. Like he's flying first class.
Yeah. Right.
It's just like, I get it that maybe not who I want is president right now, but I'm not subscribing to the world is crumbling.
I see your point. I get what you're saying. And I agree with you that when I look at, I consider myself to be a happy person as well. And when I look at my own happiness, it's not through the macro lens, it's through the micro lens. I have friends. I love my family.
But I think a lot of people are I'm not and I feel like people are going to come at me and be like, I know laws are being put in against women's bodies. So I get why people feel attacked.
Yeah, that's not nothing.
I know. I know. That's why I'm not, but I'm not dismissing that. Like I'm
Right.
acknowledging that, but the laws like that have changed throughout our whole life. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I will admit to you that even though I see life through the micro lens in determining my own happiness, when I do see lawful immigrants being wrongly deported, I do wonder about the whole notion of freedom in America and what's happening to this country. And yeah, that does affect my overall view of happiness. Because
But like, yeah,
I'm not quite as proud to be an American as maybe I once was. And again, that's not something that's really recent, or it's not something that's happened in the last 3 months. That's been building for a while.
you should write you should get with Jeremy and do a parody song that's to the tone of "I'm proud to be." You should be like, I'm somewhat proud to be an American. I'm less proud than I was before to be an American.
Let's work on that. I like that. I like that. There's something to be said there. I want to talk about coworker restrooms for just a second. They're awkward, okay? And I'm curious your thoughts, because even like in the Dan Le Batard Show studios, there are two single-use restrooms facing each other. So it's not uncommon where I'm walking out of the can at the same time that somebody else in the other restroom is walking out of the can.
And why is that awkward? Like we have our own rooms. Like I
know, but
like you walk in and there's like 3 stalls next to each other and you're peeing next to Jason the director.
Oh, no. I love the fact that they're single use. I love the fact that I'm going. The awkward part is when, I'm walking out the room at the same time as somebody else.
And what, you just like, as if you're walking by them at in the kitchen. Like, why is it weird walking out at the same time?
Because we both know what just happened.
Oh,
we both
peed.
know we were. Well, no, we were both sitting down to take a crap.
You crap in that house? I never crap in that bathroom.
No, occasionally I do. But let's say
I never do.
Peeing.
If I have to crap, I like wait till after the show and I go up to like the bathroom at the gym. Because that has like that same type of bathroom, but like where I don't have to walk out and see any coworkers.
I will admit the awkwardness of the business place bathroom would be worse if it was the one large bathroom where then you're walking in with a coworker and you're sitting several stalls apart so you don't hear each other.
I will say the most awkward part for me, it's not awkward, it's just kind of like, a nuisance. Like I almost wish we had, because we have enough of each, a women's and a men's, because I am so over the top anal now, no pun intended, about getting any pee particles on the seat. Like if a single drop, like I am wiping down the seat every single time I use the bathroom, which is like usually you lift the lid, you pee, you don't get any on the rim, you put the thing, like, but with like, there's been complaints at times about people leaving toilets with spackles on it, or so I am so paranoid about like that being put on me. I have never in my life than I do at work. Every time after I'm done peeing, I'm like wiping it down as if I'm like clean, like I'm a custodian.
No, good for you.
And
no, I'm glad.
Yeah, no, it's
I appreciate that. I want to do a quick sports minute, non-NFL draft edition. The Heat win their playoff opener because Tyler Hero was as great as I've ever seen him play. And he legit is becoming like a low level star in this league. But
the NBA.
What?
Okay, I'm just saying, like, if the Heat make the playoffs, this comes out Monday, they may have already played a playoff game, and you're talking about them being like.
Okay, I can't mention that Tyler Hero did fabulously.
It just means nothing to me because they may have just played game 1 of their playoff series last night.
Okay, but it doesn't erase what he did in the first play-in game.
Right.
Okay. I'm allowed to mention it if I want to on my podcast.
Thank you.
Okay. If you want to have it edited out, then go ahead. But I do respect your knowledge of and interest in the Florida Panthers, who play. I'm thrilled. I thought they were going to ruin my Easter Sunday by playing on Sunday, but their first game isn't until Tuesday,
right?
The day after we come out. So I want to ask you, it doesn't seem like injuries, whatever. I'm a little hesitant to say that they have a great chance to repeat as champions this year. What do you see as the Panthers versus rival Lightning series tips off?
Well, Paul Maurice, as of when we're recording this late last week, Paul Maurice says everyone's good to go for game 1.
Great.
So,
even Ekblad?
Not Ekblad because he's suspended through game 2,
okay.
but like the health-wise, basically it's Kachuk. Like, I don't know who else is out right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Ekblad and Kachuk, right? I mean,
yeah, because Sam Bennett came back.
And Kulikov's back. So I mean, I think, a little worried about the rust factor. I kind of I think I've said this before last year and through these playoff rounds. There's something about being the away team, the first 2 games that I like.
Right.
Where it's like, you got these 2 home games, 3 and 4. So it's like,
yeah, you're weird about that.
Let's just get one. Like, I like going on the road first. Let's get one of these 2. Okay. And then we know we're in a great spot then.
Nice. Okay. Most people would not agree with that, but I get your point. Of course, that presumes that you're then going to sweep at home and win 2 in a row.
But then you give yourself some leeway. Then worst case, you lose game 3. You still in game 4 are like you're not like, I don't know.
Right. No, you're right. The larger point is that right now the Florida Panthers, along with Lionel Messi's Inter Miami, are the best thing in South Florida sports. And thank God we have that, because not all cities have 2 wonderful things to cheer for at the same time.
I mean, you were overselling. Because you were on the Joe Rose podcast and you guys were talking, they're local guys, so they're hyping up. They're like,
sure.
And you were just like, this is what a market we are in.
It is. It's a great market.
We're just a sports market.
No,
I feel like a lot of cities have a tennis tournament come and a golf tournament come,
right?
And then they have the 4 sports teams that are probably better than ours.
Yeah. Okay. How many other cities have the most famous athlete in the world playing for one of their teams? Lionel Messi. Any others? I don't think so. Okay. Just a point.
The Los Angeles, they have the most popular basketball player in the world.
Okay. All right. Let's get to dad jokes.
He's always kind of thinking that his puns are in vogue. He cracks himself up like an egg with a yolk. And now Chris's morale is broke. Dad jokes.
Shall we?
We're here.
Number 3. Why do pencils make terrible optometrists?
I don't know.
They're always dotting the I's. What do you call a man with a rubber toe?
What?
Roberto.
Damn.
Number 1. Why don't skeletons ever go trick-or-treating?
Because they're scared to death?
They have no body to go with.
I like those last 2.
Okay. Yeah, you're scared to death was, a passable guess. 3 facts, Jack.
There are 3 things that interest him, so sit right back for 3 facts, Jack.
Number 3. The Toyota automobile was invented by Sakachi Toyoda, spelled with a D, as a subsidiary of a textile company that sold weaving looms.
Who knew?
Number 2. Eccentric director Stanley Kubrick ordered almost all of the props and sets from 2001: A Space Odyssey destroyed after filming because he did not want them used in any other works or placed in a museum. Number 1.
It's an odd one. It's odd that you chose that one. Is that an important movie to you?
2001: A Space Odyssey? That was huge. You don't know that movie? Wow, look it up. As we like to say, look it up. Number 1. The first fruit eaten on the moon was a peach. Gripes of wrath.
Annoyances, complaints. Greg's got grievances out the ass, so buckle up, Buttercup. It's time for Greg Cote's Gripes of Wrath.
Just like MTV did in abandoning music videos, the Food Network has gone off the rails. I don't know how much or how closely you watch the Food Network. Okay? Guy's Grocery Games has people racing shopping carts up and down aisles trying to find items the fastest. House of Knives is a Game of Thrones ripoff, complete with a giant king's throne. On Wild Card Kitchen, chefs bet their own money against each other. Chopped Casino Royale includes a roulette wheel Please, enough. Roll back the clock. Give me Emeril Lagasse alone in a small kitchen in a chef's smock as a tiny studio audience watches him demonstrate how to make a dish. He uses too much butter. He tosses in a bam once in a while. Mostly, he whets my appetite for cooking. Put the food back in Food Network. How about that?
I feel like that was just a back in my day.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this recently, and I think you're right. The Gripes of Wrath is essentially just a condensed back in my day.
I don't know if Dan would be happy about that.
Yeah?
You're just like taking what could have been a back in my day idea.
That's true.
And
yeah. We'll have to, you and I will have a conversation about that because,
I mean,
okay.
Can you just admit to me right now how little effort you are putting into thinking of back in my days at this point? You were just punted on. You've just punted on the idea. You're like, I've done everything, so I'm not even like trying anymore.
I am admitting that you were largely correct. Okay, and I am telling you, who was involved with both shows, my own and the Dan.
Like I'm drinking water more. I'm gonna think of more ideas more.
I will. You have hit on a sensitive subject with me because mainly I know that you're right.
And I'm gonna start going to the gym.
Okay, there you go. I'm sure. Herb Top 20 Countdown.
The Greg Cote Show with Greg Cote presents Greg Cote's Top 20 Herbs. Here's Greg Cote with your Herb of the Week.
Number 20, just to review real quickly. Number 20, Acmella oleracea, the toothache plant. Number 19, Hall of Fame cornerback Herb Adderley. Number 18, non-irradiated bay leaves. Number 17, 30th U.S. President Herb Hoover. Number 16, 1960s movie about a VW race car, Herb the Love Bug. Number 15, jazz pianist and composer Herb Hancock. Number 14, Aaron Rodgers' fave, the hallucinogen ayahuasca. And now, our lucky number 13 in the Herb Countdown. A staple of 1960s and 70s TV, we saw him in Chips, Golden Girls, Maude, That Girl, Welcome Back Kotter, Kojak, and many other shows. The lovable character actor, the late great Herb Edelman. How about that?
Let's see if I know what this guy looks like.
Herb Edelman. You'll recognize the face, I think, although you may be a little too young to really know most of those shows.
He kind of looks like Pop.
Really? Wow. Herb Cote.
Here, you want to see?
That would have been Pop's name if he'd been named Herb. Yeah. Right. Okay. You're right. Dad.
Dad?
Yeah. Looks a little like my dad. On that note, should we wrap this up?
Yeah.
I think we've had a fun episode. We always enjoy Field Yates, and I love the fact that for the first half of our chat with him, we didn't even talk NFL draft at all, which I really love. I'm proud of that. Thank you all, audience, for listening to us again. Whether you're listening now or whether you're watching on our YouTube channel, we appreciate you just as much, no matter how you consume us. Thanks a lot. Come back next week. Next week, going to be a particularly big episode. I'll tell you that right now. So look forward to that and enjoy yourself. My voice is getting scratchy again, so I'm about to hydrate. Good night, everybody.
Let me hear that sip. That kind of thing. That kind of thing.
Kind of thing. Hydrating it. Bread. little birch.
I stepped on Brad. Damn it.
Bread. Sorry. Okay.